uh, Noach and the Deluge is to do um, with a common universal memory of human being, uh, of of their of their ways in relation to themselves, to the creator, and to creation as a whole. Well, one can say even the environment um, as a test to the way we treat um, we, we treat what was given, what was offered. So we need to understand first, or at least to read in our time, what actually went wrong in humanity. So definitely, it's easy to read it if we don't look at it as something that has been written uh, as a history, or something that does not or belong to ancient time, the formation of humanity. But if it speaks about the formation of human consciousness, it needs to be valid, or even more valid today. Why more valid? Because we can see that um, part uh, of uh, the lost consciousness, which is called, um, one can say, the way we were deported from Eden, um, was not being able to actually know, to be ignorant to the nature of oneself, or to the nature of Adam in itself. So the possibility of being out of of that uh, of that ecology um, in which wisdom is wisdom is the daily nourishment, one could say. Wisdom in the sense that it's being life and pleasure and being able to see beyond, uh, the veil of the perception. So I would like to start with you and read the beginning of Noach, and maybe it's less the beginning of Noach or the end of Bereshit, or the portion of Bereshit, because we are still in the book of Bereshit. So let's look at it and see what we can sort of draw. And in a way, what we're drawing is the way that the Zohar suggests to us to actually approach it. Okay. So we're going into there is this myth which is sort of always sort of misunderstood, about powers which are not of humanity but are being mixed with humanity in such a way that they cause in the consciousness of Adam and human being, uh, the rebellious part, or one can say the option of trying to define oneself, uh, one's safety, one's security, one's control over reality without a creator or without God. So the roots of it start in Genesis 6. It's 1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. So daughters were sort of the unseen part of Adam so far. Let's say, as we know from Midrash, the twin sister of Cain and the two twin sisters of Abel. So now it's somehow there is an expression of daughters. So we need to understand what is actually the difference of being a son or being a daughter in Kabbalistic term. So being a son is to do with continuation of expansion. Yeah. It means that if something is transmitting itself, bestowing itself, a son will be a continuation of that. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but it will be a continuation of that extension. But daughter is to do with reception. As we know, the translation of what we study Kabbalah is reception, is not transmission. So it seems that there is a sort of an emphasis that the multiplicity demands different vessel of reception. It's not only what we sort of continue automatically. It seems that the reception part is the reception of being able to recognize need. So that would be actually the female part, as we could see from the different response of Adam and Eve to eating from the fruit of knowledge, yeah, of knowing good and bad, or the difference between good and bad. So it seems that it was a period of the expansion, of the growth of the consciousness of humanity, and what was in it was a new vessel, a new consciousness of reception. How actually to receive and how to identify need. Yeah, because reception is actually, and one can see the wisdom of reception, of the truth of reception, what will allow us to receive that we need. Okay. Now, this vessel were very attractive to higher powers, which actually were looking for first how to return, one can say, to be in favorite, or in closeness with the creator, to gain the place again. So it's at least need to be very interesting for us to see that they found, in a way, in the daughters of humanity, a way back. It means a way back to ascend to their place, to their origin. Okay. And thus we read on the second verse that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. So they actually forced themselves on them, because they were not born for them. They were born for the evolution of humanity. But in a way, there was certain forces that not only forced themselves, but actually introduced a different exploitation of wisdom, a different use of wisdom, which means we call it witchcraft, or one can call it in our language, the modern language, how to manipulate nature. So this is the birth of nature manipulation by humanity through the daughters of the what should have been the evolution of humanity. So now we can see why actually it developed into a degradation of all humanity, because the degradation, at least what the Midrash is saying, it's not, it is called in Hebrew Hamas, but Midrash is saying that the degradation was basically genetic experiments of a species with not with the same species, animal with humanity, genetic in itself. If something is forcing itself, which is not of human nature, on human nature, it's already genetic experiment. So it's clear that from that, this is what will evolve. Okay. So basically, it's sort of it was touching the root, the root of the spiritual genetic of all humanity. Okay. So it's becoming more clear why there need to be sort of a sense of building or creating a state in which it could start from the beginning with a separation, and why from let's say a vegetarian state of humanity they will become meat eaters. It's something need to sort of create such a difference in the consciousness that not only that you have to take care, but then you don't know how to differentiate and you think it's the same. It's as though humanity lost the ability to take care of something that is totally different than itself. Okay. So this is where it starts. So if you ask why actually we need to start to read Noach in Bereshit, this is one of the reasons. Okay. So there is a loss of, one can say, the formation or the plan of what humanity should be. Okay? What should actually be the one can say the genetic evolution not only in terms of matter, but in terms of spiritual evolvement, and one can say even mental. So we'll see how actually it ties now. It ties itself. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. It's really quite, let's say, cryptic, one can say, verse, but now we can understand that flesh, meaning our existence in the corporal phase, cannot, without the consciousness, a chosen consciousness of our spirit, or with the involvement, and one can say even a leadership of our spirit, this is in that the Creator will not dwell. So, the separation is that the genetic mixture, which actually separated humanity from its, one can say, its ties, its consciousness, its acknowledgement of the Creator. Okay, and the reason for it, and then what was dominating the earth, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil in continually. So, what was one can say, what was faced, or what humanity faced, is that it got such a change of direction and purpose, that what could only come from that is veering out from the plan or from the will of the Creator to bestow goodness to his creature. So this is, if you like, the beginning that laid the ground for what actually is the reason of confusion. So confusion has two meanings. As well in Hebrew, it has the meaning of confusion, which has to do with mabul, with the word mabul, which has in it bilbul, which means confusion. Okay, but the deluge, in its, let's say, Latin or origin, if we look at the word confusion, we actually can see the two different ways of genetic evolution. One is to do with con, which is to do with fusion, and one is to do with actually taking apart, deconstructing the genetic, one can say, the spiritual, and that as a result of the physical core of what will actually define humanity. Okay? So, this is where we're standing, and we could see how let's say, how clear it sounds to us today. It could not sound so clear, let's say 200 years ago, or even 100 years ago. So it seems that we're speaking about the control of wisdom. Now, the control of wisdom or science, or what we call rationality, is trying to control the future, or trying to control the strain of evolution, which without actually, knowing not what we actually are, knowing from our limitation today, it's like defining from ignorance what wisdom you need. You don't know even how to phrase the question. So it seems that we are really asking, or humanity is asking itself the same question today. Whether it's involvement or acquiring technological scientific power is leading it to a better progress or actually to its demise. And are we calling for another intervention? So something we need to incept. Okay, the Deluge is a revelation of inception. If the daughters were left alone, it could be that they could receive the revelation of for the 10th generation after the exile, one can say, from the Garden of Eden, and there could be a renewal of evolution and humanity, let's say humanity connection with the Creator, which actually happens in a lesser form after the Deluge, אחרי המבול, with one can say with a new covenant, a covenant that actually is saying that there will be no Deluge as a solution for human deviation, but in terms of a covenant, a covenant is two ways. It's in a way Noach is creating through the sacrifice, one can say, meaning through the motion of approaching or coming near the choice of the Creator. But we need to understand, we started to speak about it in Genesis, that the Creator choice was to will the creation, meaning to will is to give up the knowing of the outcome of each spirit or the outcome of humanity. The will is saying that it is open for choice, it is open to choice. And every time one can say that humanity is retreating from its freedom of choice, it's actually acting against the will of God. Every time it takes upon itself to be slave, to enslave itself to that which it knows or wish to know. Because true knowledge can come only after choice of will. If we want, okay, we can. If we want to be able to receive, actually, the same power that willed the creation, which means the will to bestow, but we have to actually be able to receive the same will. So this is basically the root of what I wish to lay down in terms of what is actually the reading of the world, or the reading of the reality of human consciousness at our time, and what actually is being offered to us through the ark. Okay. So the suggestion of the ark is not a device that is, ancient, that Noach was instructed by the Creator to build. So all Kabbalists actually always search what is the meaning of that ark. Meaning, what kind of structure is it? Whenever we see that the ecology, social ecology, the environment that we are in, okay, does not allow us any choice. Definitely does not allow us to go into a true relationship with a plan, with a thought, or with the will of the Creator. What actually is offered to us in order that we will be able to carry ourselves above and beyond this confusion.